It's possible that you may have heard the term guerrilla filmmaking. What guerrilla filmmaking means is that you have not received permission for the area that you are shooting in, or that you have gotten proper documentation from your talent that you can actually use their likeness, or various other things to where you haven't asked for permission to create the piece that you're working on. So before you can actually roll at all, you need to take care of this production. So there is the adage, the job is not over until the paperwork is done. Well, when it comes to this, the job's not over and not started until the paperwork is done. So I'm going to be going through some of this material that you need to actually acquire before you do your production. So we're starting here so that you can actually start the footwork to be able to get all of this done. Okay, so let's begin with the idea that it's called a production Bible. At the end of a shoot, you actually present to whoever it is you're working for or whoever is distributing it a Bible of everything that was acquired, notes, permissions, locations. These things can be thick binders worth of material. We're just going to be focusing on some specifics that really come into play when it comes to student projects. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to walk through some of these things and talk about what it is you need to do when it comes to your own production. So I'm calling this the must-get forms. This means exactly like it says. These are the things that you must get. And there are 6 of them. Most likely you'll only be using 5 of them, but I'm going to explain as we go along. Okay, so the first one you need to know about is what's known as a hold harmless. So the reality of film school in an online environment is that unless you take care of it yourself, you don't have production insurance. You don't have liability insurance. You don't have the kind of thing that you might have if you were shooting on a campus, because the school controls the campus, so therefore the school has the insurance for the campus, and any production done on a campus facility is controlled by an instructor with the school supervision. Your instructor supervision is basically what we have right here, is the back and forth. So what has been created are what known as hold harmlesses, and these protect you in the long run for a lot of things that could come back to potentially harm you. And what a hold harmless is saying basically is that we understand you do not have insurance. We understand that you are doing this as a student project. So we are basically saying if something happens, we will not hold you responsible for it. We're releasing you from the issue. So there's both one for the university and there is one for you as the student. Anyone who officially works on your project must fill out and sign both of these. Now, by fill out and sign, basically you can have all of the material done for them. You can have the name, the release, everything that's going on, but you need to make sure that they sign and date it. This is them saying, yes, they agree to all of this. If you have anybody on your crew that will not sign this, you cannot use them as crew. Because if anything happens, they can potentially come back and say, hey, I wasn't aware of anything going on. This is basically covering your areas, covering what you need to be able to take care of. So both forms are in your pre-production packet. You will do this when you fill them out, you will do it by person. So if you go and take a look at the file order for everything being submitted, this is going to go in your crew folder. This is going to go in your production folder. One important note, even you must sign this because you are going to be listing yourself as a crew member. It doesn't matter if it was your project. It doesn't matter if you were the one that was in control of everything. If you were to hand this off to somebody, off to a client, off to an investor, off to a production company, all they're going to do is they're going to go through and they're going to look at the crew list, and then they're going to look at what forms they have, and they're going to see that there was something that wasn't completed, and incomplete forms basically mean it can't be used. There are tons of productions out there that have lived and died by not having these forms completed. So you are basically saying you are holding the university harmless because you have come in and agreed to doing this project as a student. You know the parameters. And then basically you are signing it that you, the student, are holding yourself harmless because of the fact that, again, you are listed as a crew member. Everybody signs these forms. Now, anyone that is on camera must also sign a talent release. This release basically says that we have the permission as visual storytellers. So this is you, this is any filmmaker, any storyteller, basically saying we have the right to be able to use your likeness. Okay? This basically needs to go along with a hold harmless agreement for the university and a hold harmless agreement for the student. So unlike the crew that would just have the two forms because all they're doing is working on the set, working with you, the talent is actually appearing in front of the camera and their likeness is going to be used. So technically, anything that they're in is kind of a representation of them. So this is their agreement. What they're also agreeing on is the reality that we as a university are going to be showing off your work. We're either going to be using it to demonstrate to other students the ways of positively doing things, and we're going to be using it to be able to show, hey, here's one of our students and this is the kind of thing you do in our class. So there's always something going on, and this is normal for every film school that's out there, every media school that's out there, that they will have these kind of things. So the talent basically is acknowledging they are being photographed by the university, is technically what's being done. So you need to make sure you have this signed. It's best to get this signed up ahead of time. Because again, if your talent will not sign this form, if your talent will not agree to this, then you cannot use their image. You cannot use their footage. This form is telling them this is being used all over the place. And they are saying, yes, I agree to this. So this goes into a reality that you have to think about. You need to start looking for your actors now. You need to start thinking about your actors now. You need to start planning ahead on who you're going to have. And you have the script. You have the shots. You should be able to know who you might have in mind to be able to find an actor. Now, side note, if you're trying to find actors, we know sometimes people have to rely on friends and family. And a lot of people think, oh, how am I going to hire actors? How am I going to do this? Well, believe me, in a lot of communities, there are actors that are looking for exposure, looking for a reel, looking for something that can show off who they are, or they're looking for practice. So if you have a community theater, you can go to them. If you have a high school theater, you can go to them if it fits within your age range. Depending on where you're at, you may even have a film commission that can help you out with finding talent. Okay. One of the biggest ones that you're going to be dealing with is going to be the location agreement and location release. The reason why I say the biggest is this is where usually a lot of people get into trouble. You must get permission or proof of the fact that you are allowed to shoot at each of your locations. You will notice on the side that the hold harmlesses are still there. This is because you must have the person that controls the location sign not only the location agreement, but also the hold harmless for that area. I'll give you a perfect example on something that people sometimes mess up. Okay, well, it's a public park, so I'm going to go to the park and I'm going to shoot there. No problem, it's in the public. Well, no, if you think about it, it actually is for the use of the public provided by your community. So the community owns the land, the community controls that property, and they're the ones that say what goes on in that area. Think about it. If you've gone to like a birthday party in one of these community parks, they actually rent out the spaces for the different areas. They rent out the idea of you can barbecue in a certain place. They have control on certain areas. So they're going to have rules for if you can film there or not. So what you need to do is you need to make contact with that park. There is usually some kind of community facility, something like that you can find, or you can find it on the community's website. Seek that out and find out what's going on. Now, if people say you don't need permission, you don't need to worry about it, it's fine, you still need to provide proof of that. So you need to at least get somebody saying who they were and a contact piece of information. So right there, they should just go ahead and sign the form as it is. Now, if it's something to where on a website for a city, it said that you can do this without permission if you have this, this, or this, you would need to provide that in your production Bible. So you need to do your due diligence on your research. So plan ahead, make sure. Now I'm going to give another caveat about parks. You may find nothing on a website about the park and about the shooting. You may go to a place and that's the community center that's running the park and they can say, oh yeah, it's no problem, you can do this. Remember those birthday party things I mentioned earlier? Well, if you were to go in and just pre-plan a shoot, say this will be great, you show up and one of those pavilions has been booked and you've got 20 kids running around with birthday streamers, hats, and everything in your background, there goes your shoot. So what was it you needed to do? You also needed to research what was scheduled in that park for those days. You need to do the due diligence of the research of your location completely. Okay, so that's outside, that's a park. City streets the same way, but let's say, okay, well, for ease of doing this, I made sure that I wrote it all completely inside, interior, house, apartment, bedroom, that kind of thing. Well, you still need to have permission to shoot there because things happen. Depending on the community also, it's just like having a building permit. You have to have permission to build your fence in the backyard. You may even have an HOA. It's the same thing. So here's what goes on with all of this when it comes to these forms. You can do one of two things. Let's say that you're in an apartment complex. Let's go with that right up front. And you're going to shoot your film in your apartment, but you're also going to have maybe where somebody comes in the house, that kind of stuff there, okay? Comes in, up the stairs, wherever, okay? You decide you're going to go to the front office and you're going to ask for permission to shoot. Now, here's the important thing. Outside, they control the property. They potentially could say no to you. They could say, no, you cannot do this. Inside, they also control the property. But here's where the caveat comes in. You are a student. You are a student production. Think about where you're renting if you're renting an apartment. A lot of apartment complexes now are owned by separate corporations away from the landlord, away from the management. So management is just there to control what's going on a day-to-day basis. A lot of times with something like this, they have to actually contact corporate and do that and ask for permission. And on a student production, that can be very difficult. So we accept the idea that as the leaseholder, you are the one in control of the property. So you can sign the location agreement because you are saying that you, as the controller of the property at that time, the person in control of that property at the time, has given permission for this shoot to be here and that you're accepting the responsibility. That's for your own place. Now, let's say you don't have a great place you can shoot in. Let's just say that maybe you've got we have a lot of people that have families. So let's say you've got younger kids and you don't think you can control the noise, the sound, that kind of stuff in the background while you're shooting. So you say, hey, I can go to my friend's apartment. I can go to their apartment. Okay. You run into the same scenario that the apartment complex may have corporate, that kind of thing, but your friend goes, not a problem. You can shoot here. We're good. You have to hand him that form, him or her that form. You have to hand them that form. You have to hand them that form and say, great, fill this out for my school. And they look at it and go, why? Because of exactly what it says on there, that you are agreeing that you are responsible for the property and that you're giving permission for the production. And your friend again goes, why? I don't want to sign this. I'm not going to sign this. Find another location. If the person that controls the property is not willing to sign the form, you cannot shoot there. And I'm not saying cannot as just for an assignment. I am saying for professionalism, for a professional working environment, for professionalism in this industry. If someone does not give you permission to shoot there, you are guerrilla filmmaking. You are shooting there illegally. So your friend looks at it and goes, hey, great, I can do anything to help you out. I'll sign it. We agree on the dates, that kind of stuff. Good, you're good to go. All right. So you're going in, you're going to shoot, but make them aware of the other form that's here. Basically, now you're going to have also, hey, you're going to need to also sign a release. Please be aware of that. What do you mean a release? Well, think about this. The agreement is technically the equivalent of a lease, a short-term lease, almost like a timeshare, or if you want, Airbnb, so air location. And you basically are saying, I'm coming in, I'm shooting. But at the end, the person that controls the property is going to fill out a release, basically saying that it is in as good a condition as it was when you arrived, as you're leaving. So it says basically that upon your wrapping production completely, you've got all your gear wrapped up, you've put everything in the car, your actors have said goodbye, and it's just you and the property controller standing there and the form, and they look around, they say everything's great, good, okay, and they sign off on it and you walk away. Okay, so the release is the equivalent of getting your security deposit back. You're doing a walkthrough. You're doing that kind of thing where they're going to look through and go, okay, this is this is that. There's here, there's there. Great. Everything's good to go. We're good. Here you go. Signed. Here's your deposit back. Okay. So let's go to the friend scenario. You've made him aware already that there is going to be let's go back to the friend. You've made them aware already that there's going to be that release that you're going to walk through at the end. Okay, no surprises. That's the key to all of this. So you go with your friend, you walk through, and she goes, great, everything's wonderful, we're good, and they sign the form. And you leave. Now, remember that security deposit that we talked about. So let's flash forward, and your friend has decided to move out of their apartment. And they're moving all the stuff, they're getting everything out, everything's gone. And when they do the walkthrough, they find a tear in the carpet. And it's kind of a hole, and it's kind of stretched a little bit, like something scraped across it. Possibly the spikes of a tripod, as your friend assumes. But you didn't get permission from the apartment complex, and the apartment complex didn't sign off on it. Your friend was responsible for it. So your friend goes back to you and says, hey, they're going to charge me $600 and I'm not going to get my security deposit back because your tripod ripped my carpet. You're going to look at your friend and go, no, it didn't. Did it rip when you were moving stuff out? No, it didn't rip when it was moving stuff out. It was your tripod that ripped it. No, it wasn't. Hey, you got to give me this money back. One of the realities of anytime you use your friends for any kind of business thing, and this was taught to me in a master's program for when you're looking for funding, friends and family, prepare to lose them. Your friend signed the release. If your friend were to do something where he was going to say, hey, I'm going to make sure you give me the $600, you have the form that says, you released me from any responsibility to your place. You said it was in good condition. The friend may be pissed, the friend may be good, but if this was a private company that came back and said you did the damage, you've got the same thing. If you went into somebody's restaurant, if you went into somebody else's home that wasn't your friend but gave permission for you to do this, they signed this form. So this is why you're upfront about all of this stuff. This is why we're telling you ahead of time so that you understand the realities that are involved with these forms. So there's a last one that I will be straight up front. Unless you've got permission from the property holder for whatever, if it's outside, usually this is being used outside, you have to be aware of it. It is what's known as the non-filmed agreement. Usually this comes into places like parking or setting up a food outside for your talent. Give you a perfect example. Let's say that you have gone and you've written a script about somebody that was in a car accident, and the scene opens at the collision and body shop, and you've gone and you found a collision and body shop. Now, I'm thinking of a specific place that I've gone to do some work with a rental company. There's a rental company that is in the front of this collision place, okay? Rental car company. So their entire lot around this collision, this car collision company is filled with either cars that are being worked on or rental cars. There is almost no place to park a regular car when you pull up to rent a vehicle or just go in and talk. So you actually have to park in a shopping center next door and take a little hike. Okay, great. Not a big deal. You were a customer of that place. You parked in one of the spots out of the way and you hiked it in. Now you're going back there as a location with a crew, and you brought 5 or 6 cars that are now blocking up a parking lot. Now, some parking lots don't have any restrictions, don't have any customer restrictions. You have to be really careful, but some do. So you want to find the person that is in charge of that parking area and get permission to be able to park there. You're going to have 6 cars here. We need permission. This is a non-filmed area. So we're not going to film there. We're not going to do anything, but we are going to be disrupting the space. That's what this is for. So a lot of times it's not being used, but you must be aware of its existence. You must use it if you are disrupting a space, because very easily someone could basically kick you out of any area they feel is a disruption to their area, their business. This is a lot of times why there is guerrilla filmmaking. We are taking this to the professional level. We are making sure that you understand that if you are going to be a working professional in this industry, it doesn't matter if you are just going to be a camera. It doesn't matter if you're going to be on sets. It doesn't matter if you're going to freelance, if you're going to be your own production company. If you are involved in the creation of a project, you must do this due diligence. You must have all of this material, because one of the key things that's going to happen, if you have somebody that wants to hire you, and let's say they say, great, I like your first work, let's buy it off of you, and then let's talk about what you have next. If you can't produce these forms, they're not going to want to work with you. They're not going to produce your piece. And this has happened in a lot of productions where people have done something that they think is going to be simple. They've taken it to a film festival. It's gotten accolades. And someone's come up to them and said, hey, we really like this. We'd like to work with you. So we'd like to go ahead and start with this piece first. Can you give us the originals? Can you give us the edit? And please be sure to provide your production Bible. What production Bible? And they turn around and walk away. It's up to you to be the professional, to rise above those that are out there running around with the camera. I know you're early on in the program, but when you complete this, when you complete the Portfolio 3 project, you will have the equivalent of an associate's degree level of work, which means you are basically demonstrating that you can go off and you've got the basic foundation be able to work in this industry. You are a working professional just with less experience, especially if you behave as a professional.